Welcome to Cryptic Accounts, a podcast by paranoid people for paranoid people. And this week on the show, we've got Guglielmo Marconi and the Hidden City in the Andes Mountains. I'm Patrick Ryan, joined by Dennis Cheney. Hi, Dennis.
Guglielmo. I love it.
It's a good Italian name, right?
That's a great Italian name.
It really is. It's got a nice. It rolls off the tongue in a fun way. Really interesting guy. I think this is going to be a fun episode. Um, Thank you everybody for listening, watching. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate everything you're doing, the liking, the rating, the subscribing. We're seeing that. We're seeing all that stuff jump up, and we appreciate it. We notice it. We read all the comments, so thank you for doing that as always. Yeah,
we had a nice YouTube week.
we did. We really did.
Yeah, it kind of hit me out of nowhere. Really, it was like a day.
Yeah,
It's because of my episode.
yeah.
My last one. Yeah, that's why.
Whatever gets us there. Whatever gets us there.
I'm pretty pumped for this. This is one of those where you told me nothing. Sometimes we talk a little bit about shows, but this is one where I didn't know until I saw the title of the document. I didn't know anything.
Well, I kind of stumbled onto this accidentally and then realized it kind of tied into some other stuff we've talked about. So I just kind of fell down this rabbit hole. Let's get into it though.
Okay.
So as I've kind of alluded to, as we've talked about, like we've talked about some of this before on the show, like we've talked about the history, how history is full of like stories of lost cities and civilizations, from Atlantis to Shambhala to Agartha. And then there's ones that we haven't talked about, which I think I may end it. I'm really getting into this like lost city, hidden city stuff. But there's like High Brazil, which almost turned into a veer into a whole nother topic. That's this phantom city that was extremely technologically advanced, that like early mariners would say sometimes just appeared out of nowhere in the middle of the ocean in the Atlantic. And it had tall, like crystalline towers.
Ooh.
Just really weird stuff, which I don't know why. When I hear that, it just makes me think of the Wizard of Oz for some reason.
No, that makes that. I was just going to say that.
Was that where your mind went to?
Did it appear like a mirage, like it was like the water was ground, or was it like a sky city? I picture
No, it's like a sky city. No, it's like an island, but like the towers like look like they were like glassy.
That's crazy. And this was like, was
And
this
based
back in
on
the
them,
day of like wooden ships and stuff?
yeah. Like I don't have exact dates. I didn't spin off on this too far. Just at some point, I think we're probably going to talk about it because just a little bit I read about it was like, oh, that'd be a fun one. That'd be a fun one.
Well, when I hear crystalline towers, I think of like modern day cities. I almost wonder if it wasn't like a time warp.
Ooh, I hadn't thought about that. You're right. That could be.
Because if you saw like, I mean, they're all over the world, but if you saw like the New York skyline, you know what I mean, you'd probably describe that as a lot of that. Well, a lot of that's like stone and metal, but like a lot of it you describe as crystal if you lived back in the day.
Yeah, if you caught buildings that had like a bunch of windows to them, essentially,
Like the
that don't
Freedom
look.
Tower. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's kind of interesting. At some point, I think we're gonna get into that. And there's this other one that I again almost veered off on, and that's the story of a British Lieutenant Colonel Percy Fawcett, who disappeared while searching for the lost city of Z in South America. Which that one sounded crazy too. I think both of those are probably going to get an episode at some point.
The lost city of Z.
I actually really got into a little bit lesser known one. Like that hasn't been talked about as much. It's equally as fascinating though as far as lost cities go. Um, and it appears to kind of stand the test. All these ones that stand the test of time. The commonality between them is they all seem to have some sort of amazing high tech technology to them, and a lot of them seem to be phantoms. They'll come and go, they disappear. It is one of those fabled cities, which we will now actually get into. It's a city of true amazement, a technological wonderland, a city without a name, which apparently had remained hidden which has remained hidden now for almost a century. So for years there's been this persistent rumor, a rumor which has been widely reported but is fascinating nonetheless. This nameless city buried deep within the Andes Mountains and was founded by none other than Guglielmo Marconi and his proteges.
He invented radio and then he went and founded a secret city.
Yeah, this city is supposedly powered by Tesla technology and completely hidden from the world.
What was the name of that country in Black Panther?
Ooh.
Oh, Wakanda.
Yeah.
It's like Wakanda.
Kind of.
But it's like an Italian Wakanda. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a bunch of. We're gonna get into it.
Okay.
Let me set it up a little bit. So the story, as it's now known, was originally discussed in a book called The Mysteries of the Andes, by Robert Charroux, and published in 1974. It was later translated from French and published by Avon Books in 1977. Charroux, a world-class Fortean adventurer, had gone to South America in search of a hidden codex called the ICA Codex, which purported to show a lost human civilization millions of years old, as well as lost underground tunnels and cities. The story was then picked up by Renato Vasco and published in his book Man-Made UFOs. So Guglielmo Marconi was born in 1874 in Bologna, Italy. His father was a wealthy landowner, and his mother was a member of Ireland's Jameson family of distillers.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I didn't either. Marconi was educated by tuners at the Livorno Technical Institute and the University of Bologna. So in 1894, he became fascinated with the discovery by German physicist Heinrich Rudolf Hertz of invisible waves generated by electromagnetic interactions. Marconi then began building his own wave generating equipment at his family's estate and was soon sending signals to locations a mile away.
Ooh.
So after failing to interest the Italian government in his work, Marconi decided to try his luck in London. Just a fun thing of note, he was also supposedly a friend and student of Nikola Tesla.
That shocks me that, oh, that's interesting. That shocks me that, back to the first thing I was going to say, that any government would not be interested in radio when radio didn't exist.
Yeah, apparently, though, very early on, Italy had no real interest in it. It seems silly
Italy.
to them.
So he was friends with Tesla. I don't know much about Tesla. So was Tesla in London at this time too?
And I didn't get as bogged down as that. I'm not sure exactly what their relationship was. It was just something I noted in passing.
They were just buddies.
Yeah. I mean, they're both. Well, I mean, he's wealthy. He's going all over the world. I think Marconi travels quite a bit.
Oh, that's
also.
right. He's a booze baron.
Yeah, he's wealthy. His family's wealthy. Like he's doing stuff, like I said, on his family's estate. Like
yeah, that's right.
They're doing all right. Like I don't know how they met. I mean, Tesla was also world renowned at this point for what he was doing, so he was likely in Europe at different points.
Okay.
At some point, we need to do probably a long haul on just Tesla's life because he's an interesting dude. He's really interesting.
Oh yeah.
But we're gonna cross over. We're gonna touch on him a little bit in all this. So, 22-year-old Marconi and his mother arrive in England in 1896 and quickly found interested backers, including the British Post Office. Within a year, Marconi was broadcasting up to 12 miles and applied for his first patents. A year later, he set up a wireless station on the Isle of Wight, also that allowed Queen Victoria to send messages to her son, Prince Edward, aboard the royal yacht.
That's so cool. I've never heard this history before about radio. You always just imagine someone tinkering away and then they invent it and then I never like this dude's like this like high class society dude, like the Queen's using a radio. Like that's so interesting.
Well, yeah, I started out looking into the city that I just kind of, again, found in passing, looking into other hidden cities, and then just started looking at this dude. I'm like, oh, we got to talk about this dude's like lead up to this because this is super interesting. All this stuff he did.
Yeah. What a
So
visionary too, to know that you
yeah,
could use like waves to like sense it. Yeah, that's really
hmm
cool. I guess they already had telegraph, but it's just like a wireless telegraph, I guess.
yeah, basically, yeah, that's what's happening here. Yeah. So by 1899, Marconi's signals had crossed the English Channel. That same year, Marconi traveled to the United States, where he gained publicity offering wireless coverage of the America's Cup yacht race from off the coast of New Jersey.
That's so he was like the first sportscaster.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, for boat stuff, I mean, before this, like boats couldn't communicate when they were out on the ocean. Like that's what this is really changing right now.
Yeah, well, he's sports broadcasting.
Well, yeah, yes, he's doing it for this yacht thing, but in general, it's because he can now relay things to ships.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Marconi began to work on improving his wireless for a transatlantic broadcast. Many physicists argued that radio waves traveled in straight lines, making it impossible for signals to be broadcast beyond the horizon. But Marconi believed they would follow the planet's curvature. In fact, the waves do travel in straight lines, but bounce off the ionosphere, approximating a curve. After failed attempt, I don't know if you knew that. I thought it was just a cool little
That's cool.
note about what's actually happening, how radio waves can travel like that. So, after failed attempts to receive a signal from England on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Marconi decided to try a shorter distance from Cornwall to Newfoundland. So I'm assuming at this point he's probably in some sort of communication with Tesla since he's working in the United States and stuff. Again, when we do the Tesla, I will be sure to double back to where him and Marconi are hanging out.
Oh, for sure.
So the radio signal broadcast from Cornwall was as powerful as Marconi's team could make it. At full power, the equipment sent out sparks a foot long. Some 2,100 miles away, atop Signal Hill in St. John's, Marconi attached an antenna first to a balloon, but the balloon blew away. So they started over and they went with a kite on a 500-foot tether. So they went Ben Franklin style with it.
He didn't think that the balloon would blow away.
Well, I don't know how big the balloon was. It does seem like I mean, it kind of makes more sense than a kite. A kite could fall down if you got a balloon up in the air that's got like helium in it. It's guaranteed to stay
Yeah,
floating.
right.
I don't know.
Somewhere there's this balloon just like picking up radio signals.
Probably. Okay. So he uses the balloon. It doesn't work. Attaches it to a kite instead. And then on December 12th, 1901, he picked up a faint three-dot sequence, the Morse code letter for S.
Hmm.
So he's finally done it. Like they're transmitting long distance now. Like they can do Morse code. It's basically what he's doing. He's made the long distance telegraph, the wireless telegraph.
Very
So
cool.
in 1909, Marconi shared the Nobel Prize in physics with a German physicist, Karl F. Braun, the inventor of the cathode ray tube. Marconi's accolades were not without controversy, though. Many other men had claimed, some dubious, some not, to be the father of radio. As early as 1895, the Russian physicist Alexander Popov was broadcasting between buildings, while in India, Jagdish Chandra Bose was using radio waves to ring bells and trigger explosions.
Oh, whoa, let's give it to that guy.
I didn't know that was the thing that was happening. This dude's setting off dynamite remotely and wirelessly. Just
and ringing bells.
yeah.
How does that even work? I don't even know how. I wouldn't even know how to do that today. How do you ring a bell with radio?
I'm assuming it's got something to do with the frequency that makes the bell vibrate, maybe.
Oh, okay.
That it maybe if you point it in a certain direction. I don't know.
I want to do an episode on Jagdish here.
We can look into him. I bet he's done some interesting stuff besides that, but that would be cool just to hear about the bells and the triggering explosions.
If you're smart enough to invent radio, all these people independently invented it, I guess.
In different ways, yeah.
That's interesting how there's a term for this, but I don't remember what it is, about how this happens. Like calculus was invented.
Schadenfreude?
No, that's like a German word for taking pleasure at the pain of others. But
oh, well then
that's way off. But there's a
my bad.
But there's
I don't know why that's the first thing that popped into my head.
There's some term for like I said, like calculus was invented by two people at the same time, and this seems to happen. I don't know if it's
serendipitous.
Well, I guess you can call it that, but it's a word for like the exact phenomenon, or it's a term.
Well, somebody's losing their mind listening right now, so that's good.
It happens with
write a comment and tell us what it is, because we don't know.
I'd say if you're smart enough though to invent radio and you use it first to blow things up, that he probably did some other stuff that's pretty cool. Or insane.
Both.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Those are my favorite people anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, we'll put a flag on him and we'll come back around. So in 1901, Serbian American electrical pioneer Nikola Tesla said he had developed a wireless telegraph in 1893. In 1943, the U.S. Supreme Court invalidated 4 of Marconi's radio patents, citing Tesla's prior work. So again, with them knowing each other, maybe he was borrowing some stuff, depending on what Tesla taught him. I don't know. I'm not trying to discredit him in any way. It's just that those are facts. Those patents did get taken away after he was dead. But still. Yeah.
Sometimes it's the popularizer of something that gets credited.
Also could be that too. Again, several people doing the very similar things about the same time. These two are kind of interesting because they seem to have known each other. So is there some connection going on there?
Here's an interesting question. Nikola Tesla was he naturalized?
I believe so.
Was Marconi naturalized?
No.
This might have been like a military play.
Possibly then. That could be. But no, yeah, Marconi never becomes like a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
So we're in the early 1900s now. So as shipping companies realized the radio telegraph's usefulness for passenger communications, navigation reports, and distress signals, the Marconi Company radios, operated by what were called Marconi men, became standard equipment. When the Titanic struck an iceberg on April 14th, 1912, it's the Marconi operator who was able to summon RMS Carpathia to the scene to pick up the 700 survivors. That was Marconi who made that possible. So for the next 2 decades, Marconi continued refining his inventions, experimenting with shortwave broadcasts and testing transmission distances aboard his 700-ton yacht, Electra. He then returned to Italy, became a supporter of Benito Mussolini, and annulled his first marriage.
He had a big year.
He did. He did. Yeah.
Who didn't support Benito Mussolini?
Well, so he came back, annulled the marriage. He's on board with Mussolini now. His first marriage was to an Irish artist with whom he had 4 children. He dumped her to wed an Italian noblewoman.
Mm-hmm.
In 1935, he toured Brazil and Europe, defending Mussolini's invasion of Abyssinia. So by the 1930s, Marconi and his student Landini were working on antigravity.
Whoa.
Yeah, he made some leaps here towards the end.
So he's on a speaking tour for fascism.
Basically, yeah.
Just take a little break from his work. And he's decided to get into anti-gravity.
Yeah, we're gonna get into what all. Okay, so Marconi, who by this time in the early 30s was a millionaire many times over, like he's a wealthy dude, converted his yacht, the Electra, which he was already kind of experimenting on, but I don't know exactly what this meant. I couldn't find any pictures of it, but what was described as a floating super lab where they successfully sent signals through the Earth, much as Tesla did, much in the same way that Tesla did. Now, a former U.S. naval intelligence operative, William Tompkins, shared his knowledge about the existence of an Italian secret space program that he did in an interview with ExoNews TV.
Oh, now we're getting to the good stuff.
He claimed that U.S. Navy spies embedded in Nazi Germany's top aerospace industries had learned about a secret Italian space program and briefed a covert naval intelligence group, including Tompkins, who was stationed at Naval Air Station San Diego from 1942 to 1946. Tompkins' testimony corroborates fascist era documents that in 1933, Italy began a top secret study of a captured flying saucer.
Whoa. You know
Which,
what? Okay, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
which was headed by famed Italian inventor, our buddy, Marconi.
Whoa. All right. Now, I do not remember what episode. It might have been a couple, actually. It might have been Operation Trojan Horse. It might have been one of yours. I feel like it was one of mine. It might have been the one about World War I UFOs. 32, 33 around the type, I think, was when there were a number of supposed crashes.
Oh yeah, that was later than that, where we talked about the Nazi stuff and the esoteric Hitlerism episode, the Nazi UFOs.
Oh, maybe it was that.
Which we kind of got into that. They also, again, crashes were happening about this time. I think we had a crash there that was earlier than Roswell also.
It's like they were seeding us. They're like, hey, war is coming. Here's some cool things you could play with.
Or try and figure out, yeah.
Yeah.
So Tompkins is saying, like I said, Marconi, head of the Italian top secret space program that's like working on UFOs. So, according to documents that were released in the late 1990s, Benito Mussolini came into possession of a UFO on June 13th, 1933, and after extensive analysis, Italian researchers concluded the documents were authentic and confirmed the first UFO crash retrieval in recorded history, 14 years prior to famed July 1947 Roswell crash.
I've never heard of this. That's incredible.
Again, why we are so sidetracked on Marconi's like, I want to talk about a city, Dennis, but we got to talk about the UFO stuff first.
Marconi had a UFO.
Yep. So one of the key Italian researchers involved in studying the fascist documents is Alfredo Lizzini. So June 13th, 1933, a circular craft resembling a pair of saucers joined at their outer rims crashed near the town of Maderno in Lombardy, which is in northern Italy. The object, made of thin, silvery gray metal, was about 50 feet in diameter and less than 7 feet thick. What does that material sound like? Because that sounds to me like something that you talked about just like very recently.
I forgot the name of it, but it's
I can't think of what it's that. Yeah, go on.
It's that metal that the Department of Defense has admitted that they got at a crash.
This sounds a lot like that. So no occupants were found in the object. Fascist era documents depict the crash, and you can see a picture that was drawn that was in these documents, Dennis, and I'll put it up on YouTube. It looks like
Weird.
two like pancakes on top of each other with some antennas and some
Yeah,
lights.
it looks like it has wheels.
Yes, or some sort of landing gear, which makes me think man-made. But
Yeah.
I mean, whatever would need something to land with. So I guess that's not necessarily true. That middle section looks like it could possibly be a door.
Yeah, or
It's not very tall either.
no, but they're little guys. Plus, this one's empty. It could be like a drone.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. That's very possible too. Some sort of unpiloted craft. Yeah. Uh. So Liziano went on to describe the top secret organization created to study the retrieved UFO, as stated by the documents. RS 33 Cabinet, which is Research Espionage 1933, was headquartered at Rome's prestigious La Spezia University. And this was the first MJ-12 setup to study the crashed UFO situation in Italy, and it was headed by our buddy Marconi as well.
I mean, he's got to be your top guy, right?
Yeah, he's the go-to guy from making radios to now he's just the go-to flying saucer guy somehow.
You know,
Which makes me
hear
wonder about the communication theory a little bit. Like, did he get in contact with something maybe? That's given him some advantage to all this?
Oh man. If yeah, maybe the first time he got on radio waves, the aliens were like, "What? They know about this?"
Yep.
You hear so much about secret Nazi projects. You just do not hear about Mussolini having secret projects.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of overlap going on there too, which we're gonna get into a little bit. So Tompkins confirmed that Marconi's secret space program was completely separate to Mussolini's more conventional advanced aerospace program that was being developed prior to the Second World War. This was similar to the situation in Germany, where the Nazi SS and German secret societies had built parallel space programs, which I wasn't aware of this either. Did you know that?
No.
Like, even within Nazi Germany, like there were different groups that were like so secretive they weren't talking to each other about anything that was going on. Which I guess isn't that weird. Our military appears to do that with their secret tech and stuff. So
I was gonna say, yeah, that would match us for sure.
But looking at all this, something that popped up, which I don't know what I think about it, but supposedly the German secret societies are actually largely the ones that relocated to Antarctica. So maybe those aren't Nazis. Those are the science-y Nazis that were giving stuff to the Hitler Nazis.
I mean, I guess it depends. Why were they secret?
Well, okay, so from when just a little bit I got into it about it, it seems they were kept secret to the space program being developed by Nazis, primarily for the war effort. Like these scientists didn't want these things to be weapons necessarily.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Which kind of makes sense where if what we were talking about in the esoteric Hitlerism, Nazi UFO stuff, why we maybe didn't see that stuff in battle. Maybe this was these science societies or secret societies doing this as opposed to the Nazis. So those weren't necessarily military UFOs. I don't know. I'm not trying to defend them in any way. Like they were Nazi UFOs, but we never saw them actually get used. But then with all this stuff we've looked into with Antarctica, it seems like maybe they did have them. Some of them had them. And now that's popping up that Italy was also having some stuff going on with this as well.
Yeah, you never hear about the Italy stuff.
Yeah, you really don't. It kind of gets Hitler kind of overshadows a lot of people in that timeline.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. It's a little weird.
Yeah, just for some reason, Hitler takes up most of the
He
conversation.
really just hogs that spotlight there in the 30s.
You do that. I mean, like, I've done a fair amount of reading about World War II, and I was very, very interested in this when I was younger. I mean, they kind of do talk about Mussolini like he's like Hitler's little copycat or something. You know what I mean? Like, they don't.
So it's
I
not
don't
that
know.
surprising that he'd be doing some of this weird UFO stuff as well, since.
Oh yeah, I just mean like it's just kind of overshadowed, like you said, a lot of the time.
Yeah. So in the book, insiders reveal secret space programs. The cooperation between Nazi SS and Mussolini's fascist government in developing flying saucers for World War II effort was examined. However, what Tompkins revealed is that both the Germans and the Italians had separate advanced aerospace programs run by secret societies in parallel to these official efforts. Tompkins' claims correspond closely with those of Corey Goode, who says he came across this information in smart glass pads during his covert service with a secret space program from 1987 to 2007. Goode said,
Hold up. What is
ahead.
a smart glass pad?
I didn't get bogged down. I'm assuming, based on it, almost to me sounded like what we would think of now as like some sort of a touch screen or something.
I was thinking like a tablet, but I'm also
or like a hologram sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm imagining like in sci-fi things when they have those little like you just like
It's a piece of glass. It looks like just a piece of glass, but then it like will illuminate and have information or whatever. Yeah, like that. That's kind of what I envisioned too. So Goode said that the German secret societies denied the Nazi SS the most advanced technologies, which could have been used to win the war. It's therefore likely that Marconi's massive secret space program, according to Tompkins, similarly denied advanced technologies to the Italian fascist government.
Okay. I thought so maybe he wasn't that big of a Mussolini fan, or
I didn't get too bogged down in the politics of the whole thing or what he was really doing. It was kind of a footnote in everything he does.
Maybe it was like an occult thing. Like if the aliens are like supernatural in some way, maybe they're like, don't share this.
It was either that or I kind of see it as because look, he came back, he supported Mussolini. Now he's the head of the space program. Like he's getting all this like secret information. Like it almost kind of seemed like a power play to me.
Yeah.
He came back, divorced his wife, married an Italian noblewoman, so that he's like kind of royalty in this time period and this place to where he could get in with this dictator essentially and then get government resources.
I don't know. First of all, I didn't know there. Well, I guess there is Italian royalty, but maybe.
Well, you know what I mean, though.
Maybe the royalty. Yeah, because Italy was like city states, like up till like super recently. Maybe the royalty didn't like the fascists because the fascists were socialists.
Maybe. I don't know. Like I didn't get too bogged down in that part. Like,
sorry, I know that's not what the episode's about.
Dude's making UFOs and stuff.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, I didn't spin off that direction too far. So in June of 1936, Marconi made another major leap forward and demonstrated an energy wave cannon for Benito Mussolini.
Whoa.
So on a busy roadway outside Milan, apparently, according to the story at least, Mussolini had asked his wife, Rochelle, to be at the motorway at precisely 3:30 p.m. So he tells his wife, be on this road. I'm assuming like, I don't know, highway. I don't know exactly what we're doing in Italy road-wise in the 30s. But like some sort of a busier road based on the way it gets described. So Marconi triggers the device, and for over 30 minutes, every car suffered a complete electrical failure. At precisely 3:35, Marconi switched the device off, and the car, including Mussolini's wife's, started back up.
Well, that's not 30 minutes.
Well,
it's 5 minutes. Well, anyway, that's weird. That's that's a thing. That's a thing UFOs do. They stop your car. They shut off all the electricity.
I remember the Blinded by the Light episode with our cop in 1979 or whatever that was.
And Betty and Barney Hill, and lots of abductees are on highways. It's like everything goes dead, and then yeah.
So that may be, again, I with the why would he support Mussolini? Get it? I don't know. He's suddenly got some. He learns how to communicate wirelessly, and suddenly he's in all this UFO alien stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like maybe, yeah, these first people that were able to communicate like that may have gotten something's attention.
You're right. Some ethereal thing.
That, I mean, that, or they just finally stumbled onto some of the things that these ships or whatever these UFOs seem to have.
Right.
We just finally reached that leap in human technology. That's possible too.
Yeah, like they might have had alien radio stations before we figured it out.
Yeah.
And now they're like, dang it, now we can't do that anymore.
Well, they're just on a new they're on to the next technological thing that we're not to yet to communicate.
You know how there's restricted radio waves?
Yeah.
I wonder if any of those like aren't the militaries. They're just like, well, that's the aliens. Everyone stay off that.
I had never thought about that. Maybe.
I had never either until just now.
How do we get into those? We need to do that.
You can't.
Oh, well.
That's probably like up there with buying bomb materials. Like somebody will come find you, I'm pretty sure. If you.
Ooh. There might be something to that then.
Yeah, there might be
international waters, Dennis.
Right.
So Mussolini was said to have been quite pleased with Marconi's energy weapon, with the results of it, and he began to move towards the notion of full-on weaponizing it. Now, Pope Pius XI heard about this, and he was not happy about it. And he's said to have taken an interest in the device and was somehow able to prevent further research into it.
You're getting excommunicated if you build any Nazi weapons.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Now, according to officials, so this is 1936, all this is happening. The end of 1936. End of 1936, Pope steps in, don't make that energy weapon. 1937, Marconi dies of a heart attack.
Oh.
But not everyone believes that's really how it went down. Some believe that, fearing repercussions from the Vatican, Marconi actually faked his own death, then sailed his yacht to South America. It is believed that Marconi took some of the brightest minds in Italian research when he left, including Fulcanelli and Fulcanelli, sorry.
Oh, Fulcanelli. Oh, it might be.
It's got like two L's. Yeah, it doesn't have another vowel in there. That's
sorry.
That's the one I forgot to look up pronunciation for, because I probably did type it as I don't know. Fulcanelli, either way, and then his assistant or whatever that we talked to, his research partner Landini. The total count of these scientists was believed to be 98 who had disappeared with Marconi.
Here's how you tell if he really disappeared. Well, actually, you wouldn't with this guy. What happened to his wife?
I don't know.
He disappeared.
I didn't think to look into that. I didn't read anything about him taking her with him.
Okay.
Which, based on, again, I didn't look that far into that relationship. That would have been a very short relationship at this time. Like they would have been less than a 5-year marriage at this point, I think.
Right.
This is early 30s when he shows back up. I don't know how quickly he does that. And then he's dead within 7 years. So he ditched the one with the kids to marry into the noblewoman. I'm going to think maybe that was maybe a power play a little bit.
Yeah.
So their ultimate destination, him and these 98 scientists he's got with him, was said to have been in the southern jungles of Venezuela, where they set up a technological utopia complete with free energy motors, Tesla technology, and even a new kind of aircraft, which used a form of anti-gravity that Marconi and Landini were said to have perfected.
Whoa. All right.
So it's in that secret city. It was in the secret city that scientists are said to have perfected many of the free energy technologies we read about today. They were also said to have dedicated themselves to the peaceful application of these technologies and remained isolated from the rest of society even to this day, working in the shadows to provide new and updated, ecologically friendly technology.
Help us out, Marconi. Nah,
So,
we just use it for war.
yeah, that seems like why he left. Like, he tried to do all this stuff, and they're like, let's turn it into weapons. He's like, nah, that's not what we're going to do. So, like I said, this story first came to light in the book, The Mysteries of the Andes. And so, in the book, it's discussed how they'd heard of the Ciudad Subterránea de los Andes, which is what it's believed to be called, maybe, from a Mexican journalist named Mario Rojas Avendaro, who had heard about the city from Caracas to Santiago, he said, which eventually prompted him to investigate the story further. Now, Mario claimed that most of the detailed information of the secret city had come from a man named Naso Genovese, who had contacted him about his research into the city. Now, Genovese had been a student, he said, of Marconi's and had actually spent time with him in this hidden city. So at the time he contacted Avendero, Genovese was working as a physics teacher at a school in Baja California. So Genovese claimed to have spent a number of years working in the city and even published an account of an alleged trip to Mars using a Tesla Marconi powered flying saucer.
Whoa.
So in the 1950s, he wrote about the trip in a very rare and frankly odd book entitled My Trip to Mars. A book which, although it was never published in English, did come out in numerous other languages, and I couldn't find an English translation of this book. I'm going to dig harder. This stuff was stuff I kind of stumbled on later. But from what I can gather, I don't think it's been translated into English. I'm sure I could use some sort of a translator to do it. So we may come back to that at some point. So, in discussing the city with Avendero, Genovese claimed that it had been built with Marconi's fortune, which he definitely had a lot of money, so that's very possible. Marconi, before his supposed death, had begun shifting large amounts of his fortune into secret accounts, which he accessed to acquire the materials he needed. So it's kind of like he was planning this exit there for a little bit.
I mean, that's how I want to retire.
Yeah, no kidding. So Genovese also claimed that by 1946, the scientists had built a massive cosmic energy collector based on Marconi's improvements of Tesla's original designs. He also went into some detail about the massive and amazing research facilities they had constructed, saying it was probably the greatest laboratory ever built on the planet. In 1952, Genovese claimed they had constructed a new type of aircraft with an almost limitless supply of energy. And scientists had used it to explore almost the entire globe, including the oceans.
Now, is Tesla supposedly with him in this secret city?
Possibly. There's some that believe, yeah, he also, when he died, he didn't really die. He faked his death and headed down to hang out with Marconi.
Ooh.
So the craft could supposedly accelerate up to 500,000 miles an hour.
Oh my God.
And was built of a new alloy which could withstand enormous pressure of the deep oceans, as well as traveling through the atmosphere at extremely high rates of speed. Again, kind of sounds like our Navy.
Yeah, it sounds like the Navy UFO patents. Yeah.
Yep. Which it seems like this stuff's probably been around for 100 years or so that we've known about. The only problem he said the device had was actually the acceleration. It was something the scientists were still working on. Like it could go really fast, but it took it a while to get going that fast.
Okay.
The implication that the device was also capable of stellar and possibly interstellar travel, and it had been used to visit various planets in the solar system. We know from Genovese that he claimed regular trips were made to the moon as well as Mars. The implication being that an outpost could have possibly been set up at one or both of those locations.
I wonder, like, how many secret societies. We read about all these, like Antarctica, Germany, Italy now. Like, there must be like a club of people on the moon. They're like, oh, someone new came to the moon, and there's like,
Probably.
yeah,
Yeah, it is probably just a secret club on the dark side of the moon. Just
yeah.
And then Mars. I mean, we had that Israeli guy that was talking about secret Mars bases and how we've been traveling back and forth.
Oh yeah. There's just like a guy from the CIA and like Tesla and like Hitler, like all hanging out. Like,
Oh, I hope not. Um, so Avendero then pressed Genevieve. Okay, so the implications the device escape. Okay, so like I said, all that the outposts on the the moon and the Mars. Um, Avendero then pressed Genovese for the location of this secret city. Genovese responded by saying it was located at the bottom of a crater, was mostly underground, and was almost 13,000 feet above sea level. It is believed that the city is located in an extinct volcano in the eastern Andean Cordillera, somewhere in the Bolivian or Venezuelan mountains. And that seems to be where the story ends. No further investigation has really been made. Some researchers, like I said, have hypothesized that Tesla, having been in contact with Marconi, faked his death and traveled to this city. But is a hidden high tech city really feasible? Given the region where the city is supposedly hidden and the sheer size and vastness of the unexplored land in that region, it's kind of plausible such a city could really exist, especially if scientists there had in fact perfected free energy and anti gravity. With those two technological leaps, there is really no limit to what they could have achieved as far as inhabiting something like that.
what about food?
Uh, I mean, I'm assuming you could grow gardens in labs.
You'd probably want like plumbing too. I wonder if there's a way to. I want to find one of these cities. I just
Yeah.
probably do Google Earth. There's got to be a way though.
Well, it's supposedly primarily underground, which um, there have been many. So the other thing about this, especially with their anti gravity stuff, is as we've kind of talked about a little bit before. I don't know how much we've gotten into it on the show, but you and me personally, there's a lot of UFO sightings that happen in South America,
Yes,
like tons, and have been happening a lot for a while.
and around volcanoes.
Yes. So, and there seems to be an even larger amount along the edges of mountainous jungles of, say, the eastern Andes from Bolivia to Venezuela. It is possible that some of these UFOs are anti gravity craft from this hidden city of Marconi. In light of sources who claim that a last battalion of German soldiers escaped via submarine in the last days of World War II to Antarctica, as we've talked about, and also South America, it is possible the Germans may have high tech super cities in remote jungles of South America as well. A number of military historians, such as Colonel Howard Bushner, author of Secrets of the Holy Lands and Hitler's Ashes, maintains that the Germans had already created bases in Queens Maud land, as we've talked about, opposite South Africa during the war.
Hmm.
So, in addition to Tompkins' startling revelations about a secret Italian space program in his interview, Tompkins further provided details about the secret Antarctica bases set up by Nazi Germany. He claims these bases use slave labor recruited from a number of Nordic countries to solve their labor shortage. So he was asked, "Do you know how the Nazis solved their labor force problem in Antarctica?" In the book, he's asked if in his book he's asked about that he mentioned because he mentions that they took 7 million people over there. So he's asked, "Are these basically slave labor?" And he goes, "Yes, slave labor." So he's asked, "Do you know if they were predominantly from one ethnic group, or if there were a lot of missing people in Europe, or were they Jews, highly educated?" And he said, "No, they wouldn't take any Jews, I guarantee you. But yes, they were bringing people from all over. Many of the Nordic countries, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, that group, that was genetically real close to the Germans."
Oh God, I thought we were gonna do a Holocaust denial thing here for a
No,
minute.
no, 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 no.
I was like, oh, okay. They
No.
all went to Antarctica. Okay, all right.
No, Tompkins' recollections of what he heard at the debriefings of U.S. Navy spies during his covert service out of Naval Air Station San Diego, as we talked about from 42 to 46, are pretty startling. His testimony is supported by documents he has released that confirm he was stationed at the Naval Air Station during World War II, along with mission orders to disseminate advanced aviation technologies to select U.S. think tanks, corporations, and universities.
And we know that happens. In that,
Yep.
they've said for years a Roswell crash probably wasn't even with the military after a few days. It was probably with corporations. We know now with that Freedom of Information Act request, which I need to just do a show on, that they give it to companies to avoid having to give out info.
Yep. So the conclusion that emerges from Tompkins' revelations is very significant. Not only did the two major Axis powers develop highly advanced flying saucer craft based on revolutionary anti-gravity technologies, according to Nazi spies, but the civilian-led components of these programs were able to relocate their most advanced programs to remote locations and thereby escape the fate of doomed Nazi and fascist governments in Europe after World War II. And that's kind of where I leave it, Dennis.
That's good. That was good. Yeah, I've never given Marconi much thought. There's an award named after him. Maybe someday we'll win one. But that's crazy. I just never think about Italy like that. I really, this is one of those where I'm going to be like Googling all this stuff later. That Indian guy, Tesla, and like Marconi's death dates, going to see how close those are together. This is good, man.
I enjoyed it. Like I said, originally I was just going to do another like secret city sort of thing. And then I started looking into Marconi, and then I stumbled onto all the UFO stuff. And I'm like, well, this took a turn.
That was a good. I mean, I wouldn't even. I mean, it was the secret city. It was his work on a UFO. His whole life story is crazy. I was even interested in the stuff that wasn't paranormal. Yeah. Like he just had an interesting life, man. Yeah, good find. How did you got into this because of secret cities?
Yeah, I was. I'd had this unnamed city in the Andes noted in stuff about other secret cities at one point when I was doing the stuff about Agartha and all that. And it just kind of made a note about it because I thought it was super interesting. Like this team of scientists that have this crazy technology, and they're like, "Screw your wars. We're gonna go hang out in an old volcano and just not tell anybody about this cool stuff we've got." And when did that, and I just kind of started reaching into that. And if it's real, they've done a really good job of keeping it secret. Because there's not a lot of information out there. Like that one guy's account is the majority of the information that's out.
Kind of like going back to that idea of parallel invention, how multiple people seem to invent things at the same time. I think the car was one of them, radio, I guess. It's interesting to think that the UFO might have been one of those things.
Yeah.
And it might, I don't know. I'm just thinking of a bunch of like UFO story, like Space Brothers stories from like the 50s and stuff, and how they seem to look human, and like some of them were like this, and others were like that, and some of them look different than other ones, but they all are kind of similar. It's interesting to think that there's different factions.
Yeah.
There's like different secret societies with UFOs.
Yeah, because everybody thinks they've got the coolest new thing. They don't want to tell anybody about it, so they're just all developing this stuff at the same time.
They all have UFOs. It would make sense too that they'd all be like similar shape and stuff, because like there's only so many ways to build an airplane, etc.
Yeah.
Like so, yeah, I kind
And
of
then
wonder.
they're all freaking out because they're seeing the other group stuff and thinking that something's going on. So now we got to work faster and harder.
Yeah, stuff just gets crazy.
And then mimicking each other's ideas, and who knows? Yeah, this is. I feel like we're getting closer and closer to finding out what's actually kind of going on.
Someday, I don't know what it will take. Maybe some sort of disclosure. Although I think any disclosure is going to be part truth, part lie. Someday it would be interesting to like read the history of this time, like 400 years from now.
Yes.
And to know what's going on. You know what I mean? Because someday we'll know, and they'll just report on it like it was like, yeah, they had UFOs in the 30s, and it will be like I'm going to live to be 500. But yeah, I mean,
if Elon Musk has his way, we'll all be in some sort of singularity consciousness sort of thing.
Oh, right.
So maybe
I'll read it as an AI.
That's what I mean. We might be able. It may not look the same, but
I will join.
Maybe we will be around, Dennis.
There are a few things that would make me join like a terrorist group. Oh my gosh, I can't.
What are you getting ready to say?
If aliens came and we all like accepted them, like in the classic, like they tell us God isn't real and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That might make me a terrorist. And then the other thing is gonna be if they try to put all our brains in a computer.
Yeah.
I'll become like Osama bin Laden.
Wow.
I don't. I mean, I'm not. I will have no brains in computers. It will not happen. Other people, you can do that if you want.
How close will you get? Will you like let your brain be connected to the internet?
No.
Like you
no, my brain stays 110% here, and if you want to see it, you can use an X-ray, I guess, or something. But you can't. No, I will not. No. Would you? Would you connect your brain to the internet?
The internet, maybe. I don't know. I would have to see how it's working. I don't rule it out completely. There's a part of me that wants it. Don't judge me. Part of me wants it. That would be awesome. Just like have a web browser up, like just like floating in front of me.
Okay. Cell phones are already messing with our brains in unhealthy ways. You don't think there would be?
Oh yeah, I'm all in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already messing up my brain. I'm all in. Just put it in there.
Yeah. No, is that what Neuralink is supposed to be eventually?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I hate it.
Maybe I'll do an episode on that at some point.
We kind of did a short one on the news once.
Yeah, it's true. We did.
The 2 news episodes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's been fun. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Like, rate, subscribe, hit the buttons, write nice things. We appreciate it. So yeah, Dennis is up next week, and we'll be back. Love you, Dennis.
Bye. Love you too. Bye, everyone.